What's up, guys? Doing the breakdown for UFC 244, Masvidal versus Diaz, coming up next Saturday, 10 p.m. on the East, BMF title on the line. A little bit surprised Dana White was behind this. He's not usually into the gimmicks, but, I like the idea. I think it's going to be a good fight, and the title suits the two fighters involved, so nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great card. It has a big potential to be card of the year. A lot of finishes, potentially. So what I'll do, guys, as I have in past, I'm going to skim through the card here, give you guys my leans, the lines that are off, things like that, and then I'll come back after the weigh-ins with the final predictions video. All right, so let's get into it. Bear with me while I scroll down here. First fight I did notice, Julio Arce and Hakeem Dawodu. Julio Arce at 2.25. I do think that's off. I do look at it as a pick 'em, but it's only slightly off. So not a lot of value, but there is slight. So if you are leaning Arce, or you were wondering if you should pull the trigger, I do see small value there. I slightly lean towards him to win. Hakeem Dawodu is a game opponent. I do expect this will go to decision. But like I said, I like Arce. Slight lean there, and with the lines being off, I just think it's a pick 'em fight. So you have that 0.25 advantage over the bookie. If you want to pull the trigger, I wouldn't be mad at it. Me myself, I'll give you a definitive answer on the final video if I did pull the trigger, or if I think it's a good idea. There's more things I need to look at on that one. Next up, Lyman Good, chance for encounter. I'm going to skip through this one. Odds are on point. I do slightly favor Lyman Good. Not a great performance in his last fight, was submitted by Damian Maia, but I do have some faith in Good. He is a good fighter. Chance for encounter had a great performance in his last fight against Nurdiev. If I hadn't seen him come out and pull off a performance like that, I'd be more confident in Good. But I do feel, like I said, the odds are on point here, guys, so I won't spend too much time on it. Move on to the next. Caitlin Chikagi and Jennifer Maia. Again, odds are on point for this one, in my opinion. Jennifer Maia is the dog, so if you like her, there's maybe a little bit of value there. Chikagian at 1.66, no value there. Definitely can't straight bet her. She tends to throw away fights, or has in the past, so can't bet her with those odds. Again, if anything changes with the line, or I get a better read, or anything comes up during the week, I will change the pick or give a strong lean on the final video. But as of right now, not interested at all. Nor do I have a strong lean either way. Maybe Chikagian because of the size advantage, but there's no real deciding factor, in my opinion, other than a slight size advantage for Chikagian. Next up, Andrei Arlovski, Rosenstruck. I'm not even going to butcher his first name. He's got a lot of power in his hands, Rosenstruck. Arlovski's been around forever. We all know him from the old school era of Zuffa. He's been around a lot of promotions, ton of fights. The only fighter I can think of that rejuvenated his chin. Don't ask me how he did that, but he has been able to take a few big shots in his last few fights. Was robbed of a couple decisions and finally got one in his favor in the last fight, so it was good to see that. Rosenstruck, a lot of power. Coming off a big 10-second knockout. I think it was 9 seconds. Came out of the corner, blasted him, and got the win. So big win for Rosenstruck, but it was a bit of a can fight. I can't even remember who he fought, but it was expected he would win that fight. He did come out, like I said, and blast him in less than 10 seconds. So definitely has the power. But Arlovski, if he played a smart game plan, he is at ATT. They're really good at the game planning over there. If they can convince him to grapple, he's not a wrestler. He's not really a grappler. But as I said in the previous video, even as just his MMA experience in general, and just grappling in the gym over the years has given him, the advantage and the experience grappling. So if he went about it the right way, I feel like he could grind him out. No value really here. I think the odds are on again here just because of Arlovski's chin and age, but I don't think he should be, maybe slightly off because I don't think he should be a 2.2 or 2.3 dog, or 2.4 even, I think it was. So, slight bit of value on him, but you can't really bet on a heavyweight that's over 40. So I'm going to pass on that as well, guys. Brad Tavares, Edmund Shabazian. I like Shabazian in this fight. I'd like the odds to be a bit better. They're not bad. At 1.8, if you really like Shabazian, I wouldn't be mad at you pulling the trigger on that. I do think that it's a decent bet. If you can get him at that 1.8 or, closer to even money. Tavares is no joke. He's well-rounded. He's been in the UFC for a long time, a ton of fights. He's seen it all in there. So, I mean, I do feel like he could possibly grind out a decision if he wanted to, but I think it's more Shabazian's time now. I think he's a skilled fighter, good boxing, good wrestling, and I feel like he can get it done here. So I'm going to go with Shabazian, and like I said, I'm not mad at anybody who wants to take a shot on him. Shane Burgos, Makwan Amirkhani. Amirkhani hasn't fought enough for me to be confident. He did beat Fishgold, but I didn't think he was doing very well in that fight up until he caught the choke. Shane Burgos, of course, he's no joke. You know, odds are slightly off, I feel, with Amirkhani, such a big dog, but not drastically. So, you know, not enough for me to jump on him. I haven't seen enough from him at all, and I wasn't impressed really with his Fishgold performance. I mean, nice submission, but didn't really come with anything before that to impress me. So stay away from this one as well, guys. Corey Anderson, Johnny Walker. This is a little bit more tricky. We haven't seen Walker wrestle yet. We've seen him with some really big knockouts. Misha Serkinov flying knee was crazy. So he has really impressed me inside the octagon. I just haven't seen him grapple yet, so I am hesitant. I would pull the trigger all day if I had seen some grappling from him, which is a big if, right? It's a major thing. And Anderson is going to probably use that heavily in this fight. Now, Johnny Walker's a big guy, 6'5". I feel like he might be able to just use his weight and just be really heavy and get his back against the cage in a wide base and make it really hard for Corey to take him down. Also, he likes to use those heavy elbows when he's being taken down, and those will do some serious damage. If he gets in the clinch position, he likes to throw the elbows in the clinch as well. We saw him put down Khalil Roundtree by knockout with elbows in close range like that. So he's really dangerous. I do like him to win here. Now, Corey, if he did use his wrestling, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised, put it that way. If Corey got it done, it would not shock me at all. I do feel like his Walker's odds are going to decline. Somebody's probably going to pull the trigger big on him based on his past performances. But me personally, I think he might be a decent parlay because you can keep it small that way. And when I do my strategies video this week, I'm going to explain some of my methods and the way I do some bets in order to minimize risk and maximize profit. So yeah, I do lean Walker, and he's a potential parlay. If I don't have a good, second leg of that parlay going through on this video that you like, I will give out the parlay again on the finals video, or at the video after the weigh-ins. This next one, guys, is the fight that I feel like is off. Kevin Lee and Gregor Gillespie. Kevin Lee was a 2.5, so I jumped on it. And this is an example, guys, of looking at the lines and just one standing out that's way off. As I skimmed them when they dropped, I saw him at 2.5, and I was wondering if it was even done on purpose, if it was accurate. Not that it's that crazy, but he shouldn't be a 2.5 to 1 dog. I could see it being close to an even fight. Now, Gregor Gillespie's no joke, undefeated, some impressive wins, and Kevin Lee, of course, coming off 2 losses. I think Kevin's major issue in those losses, though, was that he was too full of himself, way too cocky, and getting ahead of himself, talking like he's the champ and calling Khabib out, and just getting way ahead of himself. And I picked Ali Aquina to beat him, and I also picked Rafael dos Anjos. Of course, the channel wasn't around then, guys, so that means nothing, but I did bet both of them against him, and it had a lot to do with the fact that, he is a good fighter, but those were great fighters, and he was, even though they're on the same level, I do feel like it was competitive fights, he underestimated them and overestimated himself. And when these guys start to put it on him, I think he kind of panics, and it wasn't in store for what they come with. So I think in this fight, those past, experiences changed him for the better leading up to this fight. You see him in interviews and things like that. He doesn't really have as much of a chip on his shoulder. And I think that'll be a big thing in this fight. If he does get too carried away leading up and you see him start to get cocky, I'm going to get nervous, because whenever he gets ahead of himself and gets in that mind state that he can't be touched, he loses. So, I've seen guys like GSP talking about Kevin Lee. They trained together recently, and he said, Kevin Lee doesn't know how good he is. He's, that good. And I do feel like if Kevin Lee came out and used his jab and his wrestling, he could get this win by decision. And I do feel, like I said, the odds are off. So I did take a shot on Kevin Lee because of that. If the odds are even, I wouldn't have done that. So another example here, guys, of me just jumping on something where I feel like the odds are off, and I think they're off by about 0.5 or 0.6. I could see Kevin Lee at a 1.9 or a 2.0 being accurate, right? I'm not saying that Gregor Gillespie doesn't warrant slight favorite, but it's very slight, and if not, even pick him. So I'm taking advantage of that 0.5 or 0.4 on the bookie. And anybody else who did it when he was at those odds, good job on that, if you notice that. Derek Lewis and Blagoy Ivanov again here, guys, slightly off. Derek Lewis is a dog, 2-1. I think it was like 2.2 when I took a small shot. I only took a small shot on this because, guys, it's heavyweight, and Derek Lewis is known to crumple. If he got hit in the gut, I wouldn't be surprised to go down and shell up. He's real quick to call it a day when he gets himself hit in the wrong spot. So I do like him, though. He's a good personality. He's an exciting fighter, and he has a lot of power in his hands. And I do feel like in this fight he can catch Blagoy. I have heard Derek say he's taking it a lot more serious now and taking training really serious. And he could have been more successful in past fights if he did that. I do think the loss to DC, where he just got dominated, I think that will stick with him and really motivated him. And I do think he can catch Ivanov here. I could see Blagoy getting a decision, just kind of like his boring style, where he usually just kind of slightly outpoints his opponent. But I am going to go with Derek Lewis by KO TKO. And I do feel the line slightly off, but don't go too big, man, because Derek Lewis can definitely disappoint, but he should not be a 2-1 dog to Blagoy. He's a lot bigger too. Derek Lewis is a lot bigger than Ivanov, or at least a decent bit. Stephen Thompson, Vicente Luque. This one's kind of tricky, guys. If Stephen Thompson hadn't been brutally knocked out in his last fight, I would have took him here at these odds and probably bet him. Thing is, though, Luque has some power in his hands. I do think he's slightly overrated. But nevertheless, he is a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. But I would have took Steven to just kind of run away with a decision if he hadn't been brutally knocked out. The fact that he has been knocked out, I can't take him at these odds. I won't be betting it just because of that. If he comes out with a really good performance and gets through or survives a couple nice shots during the fight, I'll be back on betting Stephen Thompson. When he fought Woodley, he was getting hit with some bombs and surviving. So he did have a chin. I was kind of surprised to see him get knocked out there by Pettis. I did pick Thompson to win that fight. So, yeah, I can't bet him here just because of the brutal knockout. I don't know what state his chin's in, so I'm going to avoid that one. If the odds improved quite a bit for Thompson, I might, but I'm most likely staying away from that just because of the chin, like I said. But I'll get into it again, guys, on the final video. Co-main event here, Darren Till and Kelvin Gastelum. In my opinion, the odds are on here. Till coming off a couple knockouts, his chin could be gone at this point. As young as he is, that's really unfortunate if that's the case. If he does get knocked out again here, guys, I mean, that's really bad for a guy his age. It would be pretty catastrophic for his career if that were to happen. And Kelvin Gastelum does have the power to do it. The thing about this fight that Till has in his favor is he looks huge at 185. I've seen, a couple videos of just training and, or not training, but like interviews and things like that recently, and he looks huge, like getting ready for 185. I do feel like he'll get in the cage probably closer to 210. So he's going to be looking huge in there in comparison to Gastelum. That said, though, that size advantage and that weight isn't going to stop his chin from giving way and shattering, that glass chin if Kelvin connects with it. And I do feel that could happen here. I'm going to call these odds accurate because I do lean Kelvin. I don't think he should be that much of a favorite. I do think it should be maybe like a 1.75 favorite for Gastelum maybe, but not at 1.57. You can't bet him at those odds. Even though Darren Till has been knocked out, he's going to be big at this weight, and he's going to be putting the pressure on as always, and he could catch Kelvin. Till is no joke. When he does start catching you, he can be lethal with his hands. So you can't, underestimate him. I am going to lean Gastelum here, but no bet because of the odds. Now let's get to the main fight, guys. This is probably the one that a lot of you are wondering about. So here's what I think about this one. I can go, a couple different ways. I think Diaz, if he can get it into the later rounds, and you'll hear this a lot throughout the week, maybe already have, that's his advantage. It also kind of depends on how the fight starts. A lot of people think Jorge's going to come out and just kind of try to go hard in the first couple rounds. I seem to think that we're going to see a different Masvidal here, and he's just going to pace himself. I don't think he's going to, go hard at the beginning. I think he's going to take it slow and have cardio in mind. That said, I think Diaz should be pushing the pace the entire fight, a lot like the Anthony Pettis performance. Now, Diaz always presses the action, but because of the style of Masvidal, people might tend to think Diaz might sit back and kind of let Jorge burn out his stamina in those early rounds, or expect that Jorge will come out strong and kind of have a game plan where he's just going to let Jorge work himself and his stamina down, and then just take advantage and blitz, right? I think Diaz should be blitzing the entire fight. I think he should walk him down, stay long, and that would be his best bet. I don't think he should wait on Jorge, because he might just be waiting, and Jorge might never turn it on, right? And then just kind of outpoint him and not lose the cardio that everyone expects that he's going to, not have. If he does have the cardio in check, he has the potential to get it done. I do feel like technically Diaz has the better boxing because of, he's trained with a lot of high-level professional boxers. But I think Jorge's might be like more crisp, if it makes sense. So like Diaz might be slightly more technical, but Jorge with the speed, he's slightly fast. Well, he is faster. Diaz isn't the fastest. So it's kind of like a speed and crispness versus technical when it comes to the stand-up. It is pretty close. I do feel like Jorge has the more of a chance to knock Diaz out, but Diaz has an amazing chin. I don't really see that happening. He's only been knocked out once, I can remember, by Josh Thompson. And I don't think he's improved a lot even since then. He's constantly improving. And he is a cardio machine. So if I was, in Diaz's corner, my game plan is going to be walk him down the entire fight until you break him. That's it. Walk him down. Similar to Anthony Pettis' performance, jabs, and push him up against the cage, hold him against the cage, make him work, and finish him off in the 4th or 5th round. I am leaning Diaz here, guys, not only because I do feel like the cardio is a big weapon and the biggest differential in the fight here, but because of the fact that Masvidal's been doing a lot of media, and just, this is the spotlight for him, right? This is his moment, or the biggest fight of his career, biggest payday. There's going to be a lot of celebrities there, a lot of media involved in this fight. The Rock's putting the belt on the winner. And, seeing Diaz in this spot, he's already kind of a superstar. Diaz is a well-known name in the fight business. Now, Jorge Masvidal might be now, after he knocked Ben Askren out the way he did. But he wasn't previous to that. So this is kind of stepping into the light for Masvidal, and he's been I don't think he's as focused on training. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's considering this the biggest fight of his life, and is in the gym and is taking it very serious. But he has a lot of obligations, a lot of media, a lot of, other things on his plate. And, Diaz is hitting the concrete every day. The guy does triathlons. He runs nonstop. He's a cardio machine. He's in the gym with boxers all the time, professional boxers. I don't think that Jorge Masvidal is going to look to take him down. So we're going to get a stand-up fight here, guys. And I do think, with the biggest difference in the fight being cardio, we might see a late submission from Diaz. That's a weird pick. A lot of people, I think I'll probably be the only one who goes with submission from Nate Diaz. But I feel like if he does use that game plan where he's working him trying to get him tired and holding him against the fence. If you watch that Pettis fight, he did do a lot of fence work where he's just kind of holding him there, pitter-patter shots, and just making Pettis struggle or making Pettis work, right? I feel like if he's continuously doing that and eventually Jorge gets gassed enough, and he's just kind of moving around trying to avoid Nate, if Nate can finally press him against the cage and kind of get a trip takedown or whatever, when it doesn't take a lot because Masvidal's so tired, and he gets on top, I feel like Masvidal, I don't think he'll look for a way out, but I just feel like he could get caught in a submission when he's super tired late in the fight, or even a TKO. I mean, the fight definitely has the potential to go to a decision, but for Masvidal, that's going to be a lot because Nate's going to be, in my opinion, walking him down. So if Nate uses the right game plan, and he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up, we've seen him mix it up with everybody. He'll stand in there and he'll box with you. So if he walks down Jorge and doesn't get clipped, I feel like Nate has the tools to get it done here, guys. And you have to remember also, he made the challenge. Now, that definitely doesn't always go in favor of the fighter that made the challenge, but you at least have to think that he's thought about it. He likes the matchup. He sees his path to victory. His camp sees his path to victory. I'm sure they talked about it previous to Nate doing the call out, right? So you got to kind of take that into account. I want to just say, though, guys, I didn't talk a lot about Jorge in this fight. I picked him to beat Ben. I think he's a great fighter. He's been around forever. I had nothing but respect for him, right? Like, he's back in the Kimbo days. I remember watching that fight years ago, and I didn't even know that was George until a couple years back, in that tape in the Kimbo backyard, right? So, I mean, he's a real fighter. These guys are both real fighters. The BMF title, it couldn't be more suited to these two. And, you got The Rock putting it on them. Probably biggest paydays of their career. You could say Nate might have made more money when he fought in the second Conor fight, but definitely the biggest payday for Masvidal. And it's good for them. Whoever wins this belt, it's going to do a lot for them, especially George. He'd be a superstar instantly if he won the belt. So, again, guys, I'm picking Diaz to win. Late submission. So he has value, in my opinion. Don't be afraid to take a shot on Nate. Also, another line that was off was Kevin Lee was another one at 2.5. Also, Johnny Walker, potential parlay, and Edmund Shabazian, potential straight bet. And if you wanted to get wild, I will give out some parlay options. You can always do that. Dollar for the whole card parlay, lottery ticket type of parlays just for fun. But always remember, guys, any 3 or more fighter parlays are super risky. Even a 3 fighter parlay is risky. 2 is ideal when you're doing parlays, but a 3+ is always risky. So keep those super small guys. Any loss you take cuts into the profit for the night, and you always want to make the most that you can make on a night, and doing stupid bets that are risky will eat into your profit big time. So be aware of that. So I do think there was a couple decent value picks on this video, guys. Like I said, I will be back after the weigh-ins, just kind of recap and give the final picks. Also, I'll be dropping a strategies video. And for anybody who's into the PFL, I'll be doing that video coming out probably Thursday because the lines don't drop until day of the fight. So that is inconvenient when it comes to PFL, but I will drop a video with some breakdowns for that and any potential bets. All right, guys. So thanks for watching. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, if you could, I'd appreciate it. Still in the growing stages of the channel, and looking to get a community going here. So I'd appreciate that. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.